amazing.
Michelle Snow goes for the dunk, and she throws it down.
One man. Oh, my goodness. Hello, Heisman.
Jordan, look at that. Holy cow.
I'm Chris Fowler for College Sportscentury. They already knew about him in Philadelphia, how he could make baskets like snow flurries, run off points so fast the scoreboard would short out. But it wasn't until March of 2001 that the country discovered Marvin O'Connor of St. Joseph's. In 2 spectacular outbursts, his name was raised to the front rank of college basketball.
O'Connor drives from the right side, goes up for the slam.
Here's O'Connor for 3, and he hits it. Marvin O'Connor.
He goes through some spurts that he's so explosive in scoring that you sit there and say, wow.
Marv does not believe that there's anybody that can stop him, and has never believed that.
Marvin O'Connor's ability to score was never more abundantly displayed than on March 3rd, 2001. With St. Joe's trailing LaSalle by 10, he scored 18 points in the last minute.
O'Connor with the 3 off the inbound.
It was like unbelievable to see him make so many shots in that short amount of time.
O'Connor cranks up the 3. He hits it again.
LaSalle barely weathered O'Connor's storm, escaping with a 1-point victory.
Who knows how many it would have been if we had a couple more seconds or a couple more minutes in that game.
It was an amazing individual performance. I don't think that college basketball has seen anything quite that explosive from Jason Williams, from Kareem Rush, from anyone in the past 4 or 5 years.
Dazzling around Philadelphia, O'Connor gave the nation a glimpse of his offensive firepower in the first round of the NCAA tournament 12 days later.
In the first round against Georgia Tech, Marvin was just okay. He had a good game. Back to O'Connor. His long 3 is perfect.
We unfortunately left Marvin open a couple of times, and there's no doubt in my mind when I saw him open and he caught the ball, I knew the ball was going in.
Marvin O'Connor has found the stride we've been waiting for.
O'Connor finished with 21 points as St. Joe's defeated Georgia Tech. Next up, the #2 team in the country, 29-2 Stanford, whose sophomore All-American guard was hardly aware of the Eastern scoring sensation.
At the press conference at San Diego State the day before the game, Casey Jacobson said, "I'd not heard of Marvin O'Connor or most of the other names of players at St. Joseph's."
I only hear of the players on the West Coast and the ones on the East Coast that get the most media attention. So I hadn't heard of them. That's the honest truth.
With just 8 points in the first half, O'Connor did nothing special to gain Stanford's attention.
They're coming into the second half, and they're like, okay, we didn't play great basketball, and we're right with these guys. And then Marvin, he just went off.
O'Connor hits another 3. It's a 1-point game.
I was just trying to stop him, slow him down any way I could. He was hitting some really, really tough shots. Some of the shots that he hit, I probably couldn't even have done anything about.
Casey Jacobson, first-team All-American. You never heard of me? Face.
Casey couldn't guard Marvin, was the bottom line. I mean, he was the name guy, and he's a very good player. But Marvin was just better.
I was in a zone, and I've done that before, but this is the first time I got to do it where everybody could see it. So it wasn't anything new to me, but it was just a chance to show everybody.
The look on the face of the Stanford players was, what else can I do? I mean, this is a damn good team. And this guy was throwing in shots from everywhere. He was throwing in shots where he wasn't even looking at the basket.
Anytime a guy pretty much gets unconscious, you just worry about him going off and scoring 3-3-3-3, and all of a sudden, it just, boom, the lead goes away.
Stanford's 9-point advantage disappeared in the second half. O'Connor scored 17 points in 10 minutes, taking St. Joe's to a 1-point lead.
Marvin O'Connor, through the course of that game, became more aware that he had an advantage over the players that were defending him. He could get the ball to the basket pretty much any time he wanted.
O'Connor to the hole. It's even again.
It almost becomes spiritual to watch a guy take control to that point. A guy who I even admit, as a college basketball fan, I hadn't spent much time hearing about or thinking about until that moment.
Despite O'Connor's electrifying surge, Stanford regained the lead. After bringing St. Joe's within 3, O'Connor committed his last foul to stop the clock. His 37-point night, 29 in the second half on 75% shooting, was over.
But he had to make the play, and a standing ovation. Even the Stanford fans are on their feet for Marvin O'Connor.
I heard the cheers and clapping and things like that, but, you know, it didn't register that was all for me.
37 points. What an ovation. What a moment in St. Joseph's basketball history.
I asked him, how did it feel to get a standing ovation? He didn't even really remember it. He was pissed he fell out. That's the type of person he is. He was mad that they were going to lose the game.
That scoreboard can say anything that it wants. There's nobody in here that lost.
Despite St. Joe's loss to Stanford, O'Connor's name was imprinted on the West Coast consciousness.
I knew the first question was going to be about O'Connor. Just knew it. I know I'd never heard of him before. And now what do I think of him? That was the most amazing performance that I've seen of a player that I've guarded.
It was a genuine admiration for a great performance.
The true basketball fan will probably remember that game for quite some time. They'll remember Marvin O'Connor.
O'Connor's performance in San Diego was a long way from the playgrounds of South Philly, where a fiery competitiveness almost derailed his run to greatness.
South Philly was really tough, man. I put 20 years of living right here. I was born here. I was raised here. We just been blessed for number one, just to make it out of here, and number two, to move forward.
Born on July 11, 1978, Marvin O'Connor grew up in South Philadelphia's Passyunk homes, public housing surrounded by interstates and oil refineries.
The neighborhood he grew up in, it was a rough neighborhood, drug infested, a lot of shooting, robbing, and stuff like that.
This is a place where after a certain time at night, you couldn't go get a bottle of milk because there was no stores in a 2 or 3 mile radius. And to see people struggle and to see your family struggle, it makes you want to work hard.
Just look outside. You know, this is not the life that you want, but inside, boy, oh boy, it was nothing like the outside. We were a family, which is what most children coming from that area, they didn't have a mom and a dad. We had a mom and a dad, so we were truly blessed.
My husband finished school, you know, I didn't. And because I didn't, I realized how important education was, and I was determined that my 3 children were going to get one. So therefore, they had to go by my rules. They didn't bring me the marks, they didn't get the clothes, they didn't get the haircuts, whatever it was.
Under his mother's rule, O'Connor earned satisfactory grades. Basketball became the escape from his dreary environment.
He would put a makeshift crate outside on a pole, and at 5 in the morning, he would sneak outside and just shoot baskets. And he was very young, about 7 or 8. And the neighbors would knock on the door and say, could you please tell me not to come outside so early in the morning playing basketball?
One day, Marvin is talking about his dreams and aspirations to go to Simon Gratz, one of the most prominent schools in the country.
I'm reading the paper every day, and I'm saying, you know, the Rasheed Wallaces and people like that. I'm looking at these guys, and I want to be a part of something like that.
I said, well, you know, I played against all these guys. It's tough to go over there and secure a position on that team because Coach Ellerby, he's a hard-nosed coach, and you're relatively unknown. And he said, well, I don't care what you say. I'm going to Gratz. I'm going to make that team.
My family couldn't afford to send me to college, So I also knew that this sport and being able to play this sport well could.
In 1993, O'Connor enrolled at Simon Gratz High School in North Philadelphia, about an hour commute across the city. A freshman, he was unable to break into the varsity.
I don't think he was that good at the time, so I still had a question about why he came. I may have even tried to divert him back to South Philly.
Me getting cut that year probably helped me, because my drive that summer was huge. I was out on the court. It was unbelievable the hours I put in.
I think you can divide almost everybody up into two groups of wannabes. Marvin's different from the other group of wannabes who don't want to work at what they want to be. Marvin was willing to work at what he wanted to be.
He's a guy that's worked extremely hard. He led Simon Gratz to the Public League Championship and was clearly one of the marquee players in the area.
As a junior at Simon Gratz, O'Connor was named second-team All-Philadelphia, gaining the attention of college recruiters. But he was doing it with a heavy heart. His father, Alfred, had terminal cancer.
It was devastating to Marvin, because I believe he was working so hard to get this goal and achieve these things, and he was fighting against time at the same time, and he was devastated.
It affected Marvin to the degree some of what you've seen on the court was it, the anger, maybe feeling abandoned. Marvin pretty much tried to work on it himself, and it didn't work out because anger took over.
It had an impact as well on Marvin's choice as far as college is concerned. His father was sick, so he didn't want to leave the area.
He always liked us because we were on TV a lot, and we had some of the best teams that Villanova's had. We had 26-win season and Big East championship. He liked that.
The situation with my dad is getting worse, and I'm going to choose a school in the next week or two, so he will be able to know where I'm at regardless of the situation afterwards. So he was able to attend our press conference when I chose to go to Nova.
I think he had the thought or the dream that if he was close, my dad could still come to, you know, some of his games and things like that, but it never happened.
On December 1st, 1996, 11 days after O'Connor announced his decision to attend Villanova, his father died at 49.
I think with Marvin and all my children, it was like almost a shock. Dad's here now, Dad's not here.
He was very angry and didn't know how to release it. Where he was a free type of child and was happy-go-lucky, and he just turned into a serious person. He became just focused.
When he passed away, it hurt me, but I got a chance to learn what life was all about and things like that, and I just moved forward.
But after arriving at Villanova in 1997, O'Connor experienced little forward motion on the basketball court. He averaged just 16 minutes and 5 points a game in his freshman year.
I was choosing schools for the wrong reason. I wanted to be a part of something huge again, but this time it backfired on me.
Villanova ran a motion offense, and that just really wasn't conducive to his talents.
Like most kids, if they don't find success early, a lot of times they tend to wonder if it's the right system for them. There's that instant gratification. And if I'm not what I want to be like now, that patience factor is kind of gone a little.
It came to a point where I didn't know whether I could play on that level. I started doubting myself, and when you start doing that, you can only go south.
It just didn't work. And Marvin, once he makes up his mind, that's it.
He said it wasn't that Lapis was a bad person, it was we didn't get along, and I didn't like basketball, and I needed to find basketball again.
In March of 1998, Marvin O'Connor announced he would transfer to St. Joseph's and play basketball under coach Phil Martelli.
I knew I could play, and if I just can get somebody to be there through thick and thin, I would be able to do well on the court, and he was that guy.
The seer of seer, knower of knowers, Martelli, the magnificent.
Suffice it to say, with Phil Martelli, things rarely get too serious. He likes to laugh. He likes to have a good time. He's always kept things in perspective in terms of the role that basketball plays.
He's got great personality, great enthusiasm, and he's a player's coach. And he does a phenomenal job of getting a player to play to his strengths.
Phil Martelli, I think, can handle a player like Marvin as well as any coach in America. He knows how to ride him when Marvin's getting a little out of control, yet he knows when to let Marvin be Marvin.
Here's O'Connor in the open court, hired to the basket, and he finishes.
O'Connor's game flourished. He averaged 17 points as a sophomore, but the Hawks struggled, finishing 13 and 16.
While Marvin had the talent, you could see it right away. There was no chemistry there with that basketball team.
It drove Marv nuts. He never said it. You never got an indication from him, but you knew it. He's out there doing everything he can, but it's never quite enough.
We weren't winning games, and that kind of had me upset a little bit because I didn't feel at that point that everybody was giving 110%.
He would go at people in practice to see where their heart at and test them to see how they're going to, react to him, see if they will react like that in the game.
When Marvin transferred to St. Joseph's, there were some people in the city who thought he was a punk. And Marvin wasn't a saint.
Marvin has a reputation as this tough, fierce, competitive kid, with a scowl on his face.
People really were taken aback by his demonstrativeness on the court, and they didn't understand where he was really coming from.
In Marvin's sophomore year, quite frankly, I didn't like him. It wasn't because of anything in his game, but it was the trash talking, the stuff he got away with on the floor.
He would complain about referees' calls. If another player would say something to him, he'd go right back at him.
And O'Connor and Johnson now getting into it. And we've seen enough of this.
That all comes from where we're from. When you're playing in the neighborhood, guys foul hard sometimes. If you want to be playing and you want to be a good player out there, you got to be tough and hard-nosed.
You're Marvin O'Connor. You're too important for this team to do this.
I would say to him, you're just too good a man. You're too good a person to be judged on a snap of the finger. You've worked too hard on your game not to be judged on your game.
That Fordham game turned Marvin's career around. He really matured. He really didn't get into any scuffle. He might blow up once in a while, but he really toned his play down.
As he learned to control his emotions, O'Connor became even more effective. In his junior season, he averaged 22 points as St. Joe's improved to 26 and 7.
Every year he's grown. The game has gotten easier for him. I mean, he understands now how important it is for him to be tough when he needs to be tough, diplomatic when he needs to be diplomatic.
Marvin's become a guy that you can rely on. He was not that when he first came to St. Joe's. He was a guy that would score points. He's become a quintessential leader. He's become the guy that you'd pay to see.
Sweet pass on the floor for O'Connor. He lays it up. He made it. He got fouled.
Marvin O'Connor's introduction to America in the 2001 NCAA tournament opened his eyes to the possibility of an early departure to the NBA.
By him playing well against Georgia Tech and against Stanford and averaging 30 points in the tournament, it kind of opened his mind to say that, hey, if I could do this here, let me try the next level.
From the get-go, he knew he wasn't going to sign with an agent, because if he did and it didn't happen, he couldn't come back. So he really watched and looked to see who was coming out early and what his chances were.
I talked to Coach Martelli and let him know that I just wanted to see what's going on out there. He did a lot for me as far as making a lot of calls and just getting some feedback.
The bottom line would be that he should wait, that along with Casey Jacobson, he'll be looked at as one of the top shooting guards.
He's got to continue to work on his body, but I think the thing that's going to separate whether or not he's a successful and terrific pro, rather than being just a guy that's in the NBA, is his ability to make open 20-footers. Can he make that shot all the time?
He's the kind of guy who comes back and shows it's not a fluke and tries to prove even more than he already did. He's not trying to con anybody. He's saying, I am this good. I'm going to come back and have a dominant season.
When When the 6'4", 200-pound O'Connor was projected as a late first-round pick in the NBA draft, he stayed for his senior season. As he works to improve his draft status and make a run at All-American honors, he's scheduled to receive his diploma in December. A sociology major, he'll take graduate courses in the spring semester.
Outside of that hard work and determination that he puts on the court, Marvin is a good person. He's always trying to help everybody. He's always thinking of others.
He lives from his heart, and that's why he connects with so many different people. He's very passionate about what he does, whether it be school or playing.
He has grown to trust and to know that when people care, you can give back to people that care. You can care too.
He's a bright young man. He has a really good head on his shoulders. He's very mature. He's fun to talk to. He has a good sense of humor.
He makes everybody laugh. I don't think he does it purposely or consciously. It's just that he's just that type of personality, that type of engaging personality.
He'll tell underclassmen, take this class. This professor's a great professor. So not only is he doing well in school, he's also helping the underclassmen be successful as well.
Where maybe his first year on campus, you always hear Marvin's name came up and he was late for this or he's late for that. You never hear Marvin's name for anything now. Only thing you ever hear his name for is something positive.
I think when Marvin first came to St. Joe's, he was a punk. But I think we found that he's not a punk, that he's this intelligent, highly emotional young man.
I knew him as a sulking, brooding freshman at Villanova, a kid with a chip on his shoulder in his second year at St. Joe's, and a model citizen in his fourth year at St. Joe's.
The kid was from a really tough situation. He was called a failure. There were people that didn't think he had a chance, and he's picked himself off the mat.
One of the things that he always tells me is that whatever I do, I want to be able to provide for my family and provide for my friends and people in the community. I want to open up a store or anywhere where somebody can come and work and get a job and be somebody.
Marvin's future is very bright now, and he has a chance to just do some things that a lot of people don't get to do, especially coming from where we come from.
They called Marvin O'Connor's friend GOAT, a playground star who hoped to ride a basketball out of poverty and despair in the neighborhood he shared with Marvin. But during an argument with someone, GOAT was stabbed and bled to death even as O'Connor rushed him to a hospital. Unlike GOAT, O'Connor is living the dream. For College Sports Century, I'm Chris Fowler.